and you can give me everything.
Good morning, Vietnamese fans. In VCS Spring, two teams topped the league. 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀 and 𝘀𝗀 coming into winter after a long hiatus. Many people thought that these would be the two teams to run away with the winter split. But after week one, that was most certainly not the case because two new teams emerged. 𝘀𝗀cie and Cerberus, both going undefeated 3-0 in the first week of gameplay. But now, in week two, one of their undefeated runs will come to an end. I'm delighted to be joined on the analyst desk by 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀 and 𝘀𝗀cie. How are you gentlemen doing?
Yeah, doing pretty well so far. It's been a good week so far, even though we are only one day in. I'm glad to be on the desk in a new position. I'm excited.
It is a week for celebration, being able to see two of the best games that we have already so far in the split. Not only do we get 𝘀𝗀cie versus Cerberus, and then we get Saigon versus TS, but even later in the week, we get fantastic series between the side of 𝘀𝗀cie and Saigon. We get to see that matchup. We get to see Cerberus versus Saigon. We get so many of these amazing matchups against these top four teams against one another. So this is just the start to everything.
There's a lot of exciting games to come this week. We already saw some fantastic games yesterday, and hopefully today can top the excitement of yesterday. But let's jump on into this matchup. 𝘀𝗀cie against Cerberus. Rebel, I'll go to you. What do you think is the specific matchup here that is really going to define how this series progresses?
It's really easy to always claim jungle versus jungle, but I think not only is it from a gameplay standpoint that you're paying attention to 𝘁𝗀 specifically, but Ego also on the other side, but also from like a standpoint of, again, Ego had stepped in, best jungler in the VCS, had to take an entire split off, now has come back and is trying to reclaim the throne of I am the best jungler, and 𝘁𝗀 is doing his damnedest just to make sure everybody knows last split was a fluke, last split I should have had all the reps, I want to be flexing on everybody, I want to be the new rookie jungler, I want to be the new hotness.
And 𝘀𝗀cie, these two junglers have been playing so well so far this split.
Yeah, they absolutely have. Ego was someone that we had a lot of question marks on. In his rookie split in 2020, he obviously was amazing. He was going toe-to-toe with Levi, even being instrumental in beating 𝘀𝗀 in that summer 2020 final. He was simply the better jungler. Then he didn't play for all of spring due to a pretty serious illness. He played a couple of games in playoffs because by that time he had recovered. However, he hadn't practiced with the team. Cerberus was so desperate that they brought him out. He was terrible, but I'm willing to completely write those ones off. On the other side is 𝘁𝗀. He was under the shadow of 𝘁𝗀 all of the spring split, when he shouldn't have been. He was the better jungler on that team, but 𝘀𝗀cie felt the need to bring out the veteran voice of 𝘁𝗀. Now that he's gone, 𝘁𝗀 has come to the Rift, and he's an absolute carry. He's been, arguably, really only with Penguin in the conversation, the best jungler so far.
Best jungler so far. Now, Levi did have a fairly decent performance yesterday to kind of bring himself back in to the question, but it is still early stages in the league. Rebel, going back to you, one player that I really want to talk about for Cerberus. Yes, we talked about the jungle matchup, but you can't talk about Cerberus without talking about Artemis. This man is a monster in the bottom lane. We've seen him play the Vayne, absolutely popping off. We've seen 3 games on the Xayah, and just to list out a couple of his stats, plus 12 CS at 15, 1k gold up at 15. He's a monster.
Artemis has oftentimes been like the go-to. I would call him like the Vietnamese 𝘀cie over the last couple of years, just because of how often the Cerberus has had to really lean on him being the majority of their entire game plan. Yes, 𝘀𝗀 has been very good. They've had good moments, and when Ego has stepped onto the roster, now he's starting to pick up some of the slack. And I think now that the team looks far more complete, we're not just talking about Artemis anymore. Now we're talking about 𝘀𝗀 is stepping into a top 1 to 3 role in terms of the mid lane. Pun has stepped into a really solid place as a top laner. Ego's back on form. And when you combine that with Artemis and 𝘀𝗀 playing excruciatingly good League of Legends on the bottom side of the map, that's what's made Cerberus so dangerous. All of a sudden, it's not just the Artemis show where you can shut out the ADC and just completely deny the entire game plan. Now, it is Artemis who's able to take advantage of the fact that the whole map is winning.
And 𝘀𝗀cie, as Rebel said, is Cerberus now can play through so many roles. Looking over to 𝘀𝗀cie, who are they looking to play through?
I mean, this is where 𝘀𝗀cie on paper is weaker than 𝘀𝗀𝗧 because they can't play through their bot lane nearly to the extent that 𝘀𝗀𝗧 can. Very, very few Vietnamese teams can, as Rebel was intimating. However, they have Coded, who is beginning this split in the form that we've always wanted to see out of him. He's a top laner that has always been, as 𝘀𝗀𝗋 often says, the best of the rest. He's not a Yoshino, he's not a 𝘁𝗀, he's not a 𝘁𝗲𝗻𝑡, but he is better than everyone else. This split, so far, he definitely wants to enter that pantheon of the absolute top-level VCS top laners, and he's who I want to see 𝘁𝗀𝗋 play around, because that dynamic duo can get them over the line.
And Rebel, swinging back to you, I want to talk a little bit about 𝘁𝗀 in the bottom lane for 𝘀𝗀ie, because he's been a little bit iffy so far. If we talk about how good Artemis is for 𝘀𝗀𝗧, for 𝘁𝗀, -11 CS at 15, do you think the bottom lane of 𝘀𝗀𝗧 is just going to have an absolute field day with 𝘁𝗀 and H3, or do you think the 𝘀𝗀ie bottom lane can step up in what is a very high-pressure scenario for them?
When we walked into the split for the side of 𝘀𝗀ie, our real fear was that this team wasn't going to be as good as they were. And one of the biggest reasons is that, they had 𝘀𝗡𝗀 and Shine in the previous split. That was a horrible combination in the bottom lane, one of the worst we had statistically pretty much throughout the split. I thought potentially that maybe Shine might keep the job and that 𝘀𝗀𝗏 would just be gone, and then they bring in the whole bot lane out from the side of VCSB. And I was like, this doesn't look like an upgrade on paper, right? This looks like a side grade at best. If they get the best out of Shine, maybe they have a possibility upgrading slightly. These two have been playing well above their weight class, I think, because they are supposed to be the weaker side of the map for 𝘀𝗀ie, which I think is contributing to these statistics. I actually think that they've been overperforming dramatically from where we expected them to, but I think this is a place of a weakness here for the side of 𝘀𝗀ie, and if anybody's going to be able to exploit it, it's 𝘀𝗀𝗧.
I'll throw yeah. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to jump in following that one.
I think both our host wires crossed there a little bit.
There you go. Okay, so 𝘀𝗀ie, there's a 𝘀𝗀ie hype train going. I've been on it from their very first series when they took down BTS. Yes, okay, it was Burst the Sky. They finished last in the spring split, I know. But there is a hype train going. And 𝘀𝗀𝗋, how much steam do you think is left in this hype train?
Look, it's a very fair hype train. I'm personally not on board. I've seen 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie fail too many times. Consider me a bit more of a jaded ex to 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie. And coming out of week one, completely undefeated. Yeah, okay, you beat Team Flash and you beat BTS. Those are not particularly impressive scouts, but you also beat 𝘀𝗀. That one is impressive, and yes, 𝘀𝗀 got off to a slow start, but you beat them 2-0. That's very legit. 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie fans definitely do have a lot to be excited about. But as 𝘀𝗀𝗋, one of GAM's analysts, did say when we spoke to him on Sunday, 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie came in and they were just more aggressive and more coordinated than anyone gave them credit for, which is a credit to them, but it's something that teams have seen now, and I think they are headed towards a reality check.
Now,
I want to point out.
Oh yeah, go on, Rebel.
I want to point out in the previous split, even the number 2 team that had come in with a bunch of rookies who is running in a similar situation, which is 𝘀𝗏𝗵𝗋, they had their hangups throughout the majority of the split. They had big weeks and they had down weeks really, really commonly. And it wouldn't be shocking, I think, to see 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie have a rough week if they're running headfirst into what is 𝘀𝗀𝗧, Saigon, and then SBTC, who are 3 of the top 5 teams that currently sit in the standings. I don't think the train necessarily needs to stop if they have a rough performance. What matters mostly is now that there is an adaptation of, we've seen them on tape play, they're going to be ready for this, whatever it might be. What is their adaptation this week? What do they change about their gameplay that's actually going to make a cohesive difference?
And just quickly, just quickly to finish the point, sorry, 𝘀𝗋𝗋. I also kind of want to see them take a loss and see if they can bounce back from it, because that's something they've struggled at in the past. Sorry, I just wanted to add that on there.
Well, I think it's a very good point to see how 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie can bounce back. We talk about a honeymoon period, and that's what 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie are going through right now. When that honeymoon ends, we'll see whether 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie can bounce back to top form. We are into picks and bans. 𝘀𝗀𝗋ie banning away the 𝘁𝗀𝗋, Aphelios in 𝘬𝗁, 𝘀𝗀𝗧 taking away the Xayah, Nidalee, and Talon Rebel.
Yeah, this leaves up 𝘀𝐿, which is the possibility. I think it's got to be 𝘁𝗁Queen's choice here, which then it's a question of, if that's taken away, what does Ego have in response? Especially with the double ban, you have to expect that this is going to come out. And the ADC pool has been pinched. What's even crazier is that Xayah got pinched off the board, not willing to be given over to the side of 𝘀𝐿cie by Cerberus. You would expect, if you leave the 𝘀𝐿 up, then the Xayah would be something they could take very easily and quickly off the board. But instead, they decide that it is just too powerful, and they don't want VCS to have it in the bot lane.
And I have to immediately disagree with that decision-making. I think you're spot on with what their train of thought was. But VCS not the PowerPoint. 𝘁𝗁Queen is, and 𝘀𝐿 does things that no other jungler can. So 𝘁𝗁Queen is now situated on a pick that is absolutely dominant in the role. And I think Cerberus have put themselves up to task here, going up against 𝘁𝗁Queen on that lead.
Okay.
We've seen the 𝘀𝐿 as well from from 𝘁𝗁Queen quite a few times. We know how aggressive he likes to play early. Once again, it's this Jhin coming through from VCS. We know how much in the VCS teams have just consistently gone towards Jhin Misfortune. And this is why I particularly really like Artemis, because he doesn't always do that.
I don't like that at all. I don't like any of this for a number of reasons, but the biggest thing is that Camille is actually left up at this position, which is the perfect place you want to take it. If you get Camille on R3, you get to double ban top lane immediately to be able to protect that pick. And it's going on to Pun, who's actually had a decent split. And like you said, 𝘁𝗁que, earlier on, that Pun versus Coded is a matchup we're actually keeping our eyes on pretty intensely over the course of this, just because both of them are having decent splits. Coded specifically has been having an incredible one and needs to be on point today. So getting this pick that quickly for Pun, I wonder how deep into the pool they're going to go, because Jax almost certainly has got to be on the ban list now.
It has to be. If they don't ban out Jax, then they've really wasted an opportunity, but I'm sure they will, as Tristana is going to be moved here from 𝘀𝐿𝐿cie. They're obviously going to try and take away ADCs, and Artemis, I think, did play that Trist once, had a very explosive performance. But it is interesting that that's the one they go towards when there are some, decent ADCs left open. Maybe they want to push him onto the Misfortune.
Well, we'll have to see whether that Misfortune does come through. One champion that we have seen Coach play so far this split that hasn't been taken away is the Gnar. Do you think that's a possible answer into this Camille Rebel?
I would not like that from Coded. Mostly because, again, it's such a rough matchup to take if you're the Gnar, because in the early levels and into the split pushing phase, unless you have a really good grounding underneath of you, especially unless 𝘁𝗁Queen's really going to put a ton of focus and they're going to double down their eggs into the top lane basket, that's not going to be the case. Caitlyn, let's go.
That's the first Caitlyn we've seen all winter split, and this is why I like Artemis, because we get to see different bot laners coming through. 𝘁𝗁que's.
I mean, last pick Vi jungle. Come on, let's get the girlfriends onto the Rift. Let's go. I mean, Caitlyn, she's a lane bully. It makes sense. It can go toe to toe with the Jhin, one of the few ADCs that can actually assert themselves in lane up against the Jhin. But it's a very, very strange one. We're going to have to see how that one plays out. It's certainly not something I would have seen coming as they round out with that standard B5 Renekton. Coded getting a strong pick there. He knows he's up against the Graves. Renekton is one of the champions he can get in its face. But this is an interesting last few picks.
Rebel, we kind of knew that Renekton was coming. It's the VCS special after all, right?
Not only that, but it's also the response to Camille, which is when you're blinding Camille, especially B3 is the punishment usually if you take it to B3 because you're oh, we gotta get it. Then Renekton always comes as the response to it, and so it's not shocking to see it come out here. I'm actually in pretty decent distaste of this composition from 𝘀𝐿𝐶ie. It's far too standard for my liking. They've had a bunch of work when 𝘁𝗁Queen's able to kind of control pacing, when he's able to go crazy on the more unique picks, things like the Talon. But this is so stock standard into Cerberus, who are the standard team fighting team to end all VCS team fighting teams. This is not a team you want to mess with in the late game.
No, it's really not. And 𝘀𝐿𝐶ie, I feel like I would have preferred something else for Coded. Renekton, we know what he does. I'm not as much of a Renekton hater as certain other people are. I do think the champion has its merits. 𝘁𝗁𝗋, yeah, that's an example. There are certainly others within the league community. I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just I don't necessarily go as far with it. But it's a very binary champion. It's not something I like seeing picked up for your star top laner. but it might allow 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 to go up there if they can bully Pun. You identified the 𝘁𝗁 as a really strong point of power. Maybe 𝘁 Renekton can slow that down.
So, Rebel, 𝘀cie, you both seem to be preferring the Cerberus draft. Do you think Cerberus hand 𝘀𝑠𝗆ry their first game defeat of the split? Rebel, I'll go to you first.
Yes, they do.
I think I have to take Cerberus here.
The doubters have spoken. Cerberus, we'll see whether they can take the win. We'll be hearing more from 𝘀cie at the end of the game to get his thoughts on how the game did progress. Rebel, early, I just want to talk about what we can expect to see from 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶 and 𝘁𝗀, because we talked about how important this matchup was, and we've got 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶 and 𝘁𝗀 both on early game junglers.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're saying that Graves is an early game jungler?
He's like, I don't know,
No.
he bullies people, he wins
He
1v1s early.
No, he doesn't.
No?
No,
I'll have
he
you
doesn't
know,
do any
I
of
played
that.
a game of Graves
I'll have
yesterday.
you know,
and
you're
it
sitting in
popped off early.
platinum and you're not a professional player.
It was
so
a normal as well, to be honest.
It's also annoying. You're gonna tell me an ARAM Graves like stomped your team in the first 3 minutes or something like that. Like,
All right,
it's not-
then, explain to me why 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶 dominates 𝘁𝗀, because he's on a more early game
See,
jungler
now,
than 𝘁𝗀, and how he can
this
get more
is-
pressure on the map.
See, now we're hyperbolizing also. So this is a problem.
Okay.
We need to fix this.
Just tell
𝘁𝗀's-
me about the blooming game, Rebel.
I'm trying to. Okay, we'll get there. 𝘁𝗀 is in a position where he is playing more of a kind of a responsive role to what 𝘂𝗏 wants to do. In an ideal world, I think Cerberus, they want to play exclusively around the roaming power of 𝘂𝗏, and then you look at, okay, they've got incredible siege power on the bottom lane. They want to break out bottom lane first, and then top lane's got the same problem. If you get top or bot lane rolling as fast as possible, side lanes are going to go absolutely incredible that quickly. Cerberus will tear your map apart. And so what you need to do as 𝘀𝗰𝗃 is you need to control as much as possible the interaction that 𝘂𝗏, and I guess then 𝘁𝗀 in that particular case, has with the remainder of the map. It's not all about just making sure that this map is going to get ahead. You know, you can get a kill or two onto Pun. If they're winning bottom side, that's a problem. If you go down and you save, put down pressure onto 𝘁𝗏 and 𝗁𝗏, but Coded is going crazy, again, they still have a strong, or my apologies, Pun is going crazy. All of a sudden, you still have a powerful side of the map that Twisted Fate can play to, and side lane towers that they can pull gold from. So to me, I feel like 𝘀𝗰𝗃's in much more of a restricted role of ensuring that his team does not have a weak point. And again, this to me plays into the fact that 𝘀𝗀ry honestly really don't have a composition that we've seen them have a bunch of success on so far.
Okay, now, Rebel, you are obviously a very logical man. Some would even say you are logic reincarnated. So I've got a bit of logic that I want to swing by your way as we do jump on into game. So Cerberus beat 𝘀𝗏 2-1. 𝘀𝗀ry beat 𝘀𝗏 2-0. So does that mean 𝘀𝗀ry are better than Cerberus?
All right, so let me put it like this, right? I had a tryout for a team in the United States called the New Esports, right?
Okay.
A New Esports, they had a mid laner at the time, or they had a jungler at the time named Inori. Do you know who Inori is?
It's an anime character, I believe, from...
No, it is the name. It is the name of a Rengar player who played back in the day of Phoenix 1. Do you remember Phoenix 1 by chance?
I don't, but I might
we're gonna
remember
get away
𝘀𝗃
from that.
trading on Ego on the Rift and actually getting awards, so it is a little bit of gold into the pockets of a 𝘀𝗀ry, but it's kind
The
of
point I'm going to
meaningless.
drive to, all things said
Yes.
and done, is that I played a game, I beat Inori. Inori played a game on Phoenix 1, beat Mike Young. Phoenix 1 with Mike Young beat G2. Does that mean that I beat G2?
Yes, and this is why you always say
So
you
there you go.
are the best Rise on the Korean server.
No,
fake a
that's
second.
false. That is an incorrect
Are you
statement. I've
second?
never one time said that. It's the Chinese super server
What
that I'm
did you
number
say?
one at.
Oh,
The
Chinese super
server.
server.
That's right.
Okay,
It's
there we
much
go.
larger and it's much more competitive. It's not just the Korean server. I wouldn't waste my time there, unfortunately.
Well, we are into game, and we're
Yeah.
going to start taking this cast into a more serious direction as the game will be getting more serious. And a nice trade so far from 𝘁𝗏𝗆's onto 𝘂𝗏. I don't quite know how 𝘂𝗏 got this low on the TF.
I mean, he's a TF. He started E. I don't think E is always the best choice. So against melee matchups, specifically Sylas, my apologies, was the big one. But any melee champion you would bring into the mid lane, I know Set was another big one. You start E because you can get really amazing auto-attacking trades, and it actually helps with your lane push quite a bit. But against a champion like Syndra, when you do something like this, it's greedy, right? 𝘀𝗀 wants to be able to control the wave and take really aggressive trades on the off chance that, Blazes uses an ability on the wave, something like that. And it's clear that Blazes understood that and immediately just put pressure onto 𝘀𝗀, which is humongous. Because again, 𝘀𝗀cie's whole job here is to mitigate 𝘀𝗀's ability to move out and about on the map as much as possible. And so far, it has been Blazes who stepped up. We're only a few seconds into the game, so we're not really that concerned with it. But if Blazes can keep that kind of pressure on, that's what we're looking for. That would free up 𝘁𝗀 to play a lot more of an aggressive role that we've seen him play and have a bunch of success with so far.
And we know how impactful those Twisted Fate ults can be once we do get to the mid stages of the game. Another strong trade from Blazes. That's the point where you kind of wish that you took Ignite instead of Teleport so that you could get a kill. But either way, there aren't any Ignites coming through in the mid lane. We do have an Ignite in the top lane, courtesy of 𝘁, and then of course from supports, because that's what supports like to do these days.
They do like to get aggressive. I don't actually anticipate a bunch of aggression actually coming out from either side bot lane. Mostly because when you talk about a matchup like Leona versus Alistar, like if Leona gets aggressive, Alistar gets counterplay. But if Alistar gets aggressive, Leona does the exact same thing back to him. So it's like neither one of them really like to move that much. I like this play from Ego, who's putting some additional pressure into the bottom side, making sure that Vit and H3, they stay honest as possible. 𝘀𝗀 also got a little bit of lane shove off the back that had come through from Blazes. And that means that they have to walk away from tower. And this is humongous because Cerberus is again, so they're setting up their side wave to make sure that you can lay this siege on as much as possible. This Caitlyn is a tower-taking monster in the earlier stages of the game with those crit shots, with everything that comes about. And when the gold, wow, okay.
𝘁𝗀 just goes on to 𝘀𝗀, and it's first blood for 𝘀𝗀ciery.
Thank you, VCS observers. We do like actually seeing the tail end of a play. At least they didn't show us only the dead corpse of 𝘀𝗀. But yeah, this is exactly what needs to happen from 𝘀𝗀ciery. They're shutting out 𝘀𝗀 as much as possible. Both teams playing to a win condition that we set up for them in the very early stages. Cerberus leaning to bottom lane, and the mid lane getting pushed back and making sure that 𝘀𝗀 is not going to be comfortable at all from the side of 𝘀𝗀ciery.
And now Ego trading onto 𝘁𝗀, who is low, needs to be able to wall jump his way out to safety as 𝘁 teleports back into the play. Meanwhile, H3 super low in the bottom lane. Now flashes away. One more auto would be enough from 𝘁𝗀. Built over Peacemaker. Just about missing. H3 just out of range. And Cerberus narrowly avoid getting a kill of their own onto the scoreboard.
Not sure in the slightest how that actually came about. At some point, H3, I think he honestly might have just pressed an ability and used it to try to get onto 𝘁𝗀 and burnt a little bit of the health bar, but there wasn't enough follow-up. This is that mid lane play, thankfully. We're going to get a chance to see that. Nice stun by Blazes, and 𝘁𝗀 just comes in. Again, putting that pressure on as much as possible, humongous for shutting out not only like a really important piece of the composition, but also 𝘀𝗀, who has stepped up dramatically for this split for the side of Cerberus to be another one of these playmakers to help support 𝘁𝗀.
And Ron-OP trying to set up for a flank potential onto a Blaze. Gets spotted out by 𝘁𝗀 on the Raptors, who will pick up most of his Raptors. I do believe 𝘀𝗀 with the wildcards was able to steal a couple of them in the process. As in the top lane, 𝘁 just trading onto Coated. It's fairly even, pretty much bang on even in terms of CS picked up. And that's exactly what 𝘁 wants to be able to do, especially considering that Renekton is a counter pick.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation. Renekton in this case isn't a counter in the very traditional sense of like being strong against the champion in the majority of cases. In this case, it's early game, especially into this level, like this first kind of component, first item mark. This Renekton has some legitimate kill threat, especially with the empowered W coming out. That's a lot of auto attack damage, and it shreds the shield that comes out from 𝘁 if he thinks he's able to be confident whatsoever. But on bottom side, getting more action between everybody, but everyone from 𝘀𝗀ciery is already here. Ron-OP might look for an angle onto Vit, but Vit, he smells it. He knows that he needs to just not be there, not get pinched off, and thankfully they're not going to find him.
And 𝘀𝗀ciery seem to be aware of the fact that Cerberus want to play around 𝘁𝗀. They want to get 𝘁𝗀 ahead, and 𝘀𝗀ciery are doing everything in their power to make sure they don't give any kills over. It doesn't matter if they lose CS as the Ego over the wall, and just saying hello to 𝘁𝗀, saying those are my minions, ends up ulting the Krugs as well. Doesn't get any damage onto 𝘁𝗀, but I think that's just a statement from Ego. I don't know if that was worthwhile.
An absolute gremlin right now, standing in this jungle, making sure 𝘁𝗀 is suffering as much as possible, which is another option from the side of Cerberus, which we really like. Again, Ego, he's like to say that like oh, actually, we got some action on the top side. Look at that, Coded. He's bridging this little kind of mid gap that you're looking for out of the Renekton and the 𝘁𝗎𝗆, and punishing this early game 𝘁𝗎𝗆 as much as possible, which is really nice. But again, I can't talk. I forgot this is VCS.
You can't talk. 𝘁𝗁Queen going in on to 𝘂𝗀. Scatter of the weak. Zenith Blade. Blazes gets the kill. 𝘂𝗀 picks up his second death of the game.
God, I love Blazes so much. I talked about it last week on the desk. He's insanely stepped up for the course of this split, playing a number of different roles, playing a different champion arrangement. Last split, it felt like he was so uncomfortable. He didn't have a bunch of synergy with the team. He was making mistakes all the time. But this split, 𝘀𝗀cie has been able to lean on this mid laner like he is a seasoned veteran. In this game, being able to step up and take it to 𝘂𝗀 is humongous. I love the progression we've seen out of him. It reminds me of the progression we saw out of 𝘁𝗀gy. Again, so many comparisons between this 𝘀𝗀cie squad and that 𝘂𝗀_Buffalo squad from just one split ago back in the spring when it comes to that success story, from their development, from being out of the VCS, things of that sort. Look at this from Blazes. He even jumps the wave. He kind of fooled with that 1Q, and 𝘂𝗀 got stuck in a really rough position.
Remember, if there's 2 control wards, folks, don't try to take them. Just run. 2 control wards is too many. It means you don't have any control over that brush. Now, Ego's going towards Rift Herald, and I guess this means that we kind of have to talk about Ego and how he uses Rift Heralds, because he usually messes them up.
It's a little crazy. I like to think of this right now, at least, as an anomaly in statistics. So if you've got like 10% chance of messing up a Rift Herald, there over enough samples, there is a time where you'll mess up like 3 or 4 in your first 5 attempts, and I feel like that's more of what's happened with Ego, although their setup hasn't been particularly great for a number of them, so maybe it is a problem. But they've had a week to work on it, so hopefully he's going to be able to use it more effectively this time. Hopefully he's not just going to goon with this Rift Herald to the best of his abilities.
You know what? 𝘁𝗏 is starting to feel himself on the Caitlyn. He's pretty much full HP coated, and coated, son, you don't want to be standing there. That is risky, as in comes an engaged Zenith Blade, not quite going to be able to connect 𝘁𝗀Queen. That built over Peacemaker! Collateral damage, and 𝘁𝗀Queen will be the collateral. Ego picks up the kill. Now, this is a point where you want to drop the Rift Herald, Ego.
This would be a point. They did lose the wave is the problem, so they have to wait for the next one to jump out here. This is a play that was really telegraphed from Cerberus, where they moved their top lane up as fast as possible. You knew that there was going to be action on that top side when it came to the Rift Herald getting taken. You can see him spawning it up there, and I actually don't really mind the response from 𝘁𝗀Queen. I thought it was a really kind of, it was a very LPL-esque result, where it's like, okay, you can either play on the timer of everything that's happening, or you can go off-tempo and play off the timer, and that was an off-tempo play by 𝘁𝗀Queen, and attempted to slow that play down from the side of 𝘀𝗀cie, but I think they needed Blazes there really badly. Thankfully, 𝘂𝗀 was able to get a nice shove underneath the mid lane. He wasn't able to show up in time for that top side play. If they've got 4, they 100% make that work, and they shut out the Rift Herald play, and now, I mean, Coda's just getting caught on the back end for absolutely no reason.
Flashes over the wall, but 𝘁𝗏 flashes in response, and 𝘁𝗏 gets his first kill of the game. I feel like in the early stages of the game, 𝘀𝗀cie identified, okay, you know, we want to be playing around Blazes, we want to get him ahead, and we'll quickly hold that thought to view what happened in the top lane.
I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. Again, I think if 𝘁𝗀Queen is able to get a solid kick into this position, and if you have Blazes around, it is a hard-winning scenario where the Rift Herald doesn't get dropped. You're able to shut down the Praise, and I mean, effectively what you get is 2 plates in exchange for almost nothing on the side of Cerberus. I like this discussion you're having, though. Again, our expectation coming in was that 𝘂𝗀 was going to be a huge part to attacking the remainder of the map, and when 𝘀𝗀cie actually went at him very quickly with the combination of Blazes and 𝘁𝗀Queen, I'm waiting now.
Okay, Scatter of the Weak into the Zenith Blade, but Pun's just going to be able to walk it off.
Yeah, easy enough. I'm not sure actually how they saw him. I'm assuming they had a river ward. He had cleared a ward just seconds ago, and they were able to jump in because of that. But again, I want to talk about Cerberus being able to tech swap, is how we actually call it in StarCraft, where you see something happening on the map, and you change the way that you're playing specifically because of it. And in this case, no longer are they trying to save 𝘂𝗀. They're not going to break him out of mid lane. They're not going to spend a bunch of time. Instead, they say, okay, Ego, if 𝘁𝗀Queen's going to spend all his time near mid, we're going to put you around the map. We're going to let you farm up as much as possible. And specifically, we want to put you on bottom side near this powerful Caitlyn. Ego, man, come on. These ultimates are just messy all over the place.
Okay, Destiny into the bottom lane. Zenith Blade comes through, all to try to protect 𝘁𝗏. H3 will get taken down.
Doesn't
Good
matter.
gale force forward from 𝘁𝗏, who is now 2-0. 10 CS up on 𝘁𝗏 pretty much, and Cerberus in the driving seat. 3k gold ahead of 𝘀𝗀cie.
And this is the disgusting part about having a Caitlyn inside the laning phase, right? There's like a number of ways that this Caitlyn is useful, but the best way you could do it. Oh, actually, Blaze has found his way into the mid lane. 𝘀𝗀𝗶's got the ult on. Maybe he could live. No.
You see how Artemis just says, I'm sorry, Ron, I ain't tanking nothing for you. I see a Syndra there.
Coded.
Ron OP is sent to the walls. Hextech ultimatum in the top lane. Coded has to do a 1v2. Surely can't find anything. He will not. Pun picks up the kill.
It's really good, again, from Cerberus. They're playing almost a reactive style game where they're saying, okay, where is 𝘀𝗀𝗋 putting on pressure? We expected Cerberus to be the ones that are aggressing with Yado, and when he got slowed down, all of a sudden it became, okay, we've got a Graves and we've got a powerful bottom lane. Let's sit him around there, but more specifically, let's wait and see where 𝘀𝗀𝗋 wants to put on their pressure, because it's inevitably going to come from Killer Queen somewhere onto the map, from Blazes now somewhere on the map when he's got lane priority. And surprisingly, 𝘀𝗀𝗋 has not been able to attack even a single time into Artemis, into this Caitlyn to shut it down, which is horrifying, because even though Artemis has 2 kills, which aren't even necessary at this point, the amount of gold that the Caitlyn just has to have off the back of turret plates and the first turret on the top side of the map is just horrifying. That's the point of the whole Caitlyn. And this is, I mean, Coded wins this 1v1. They're still level 9. They're still without like the first real components of the second item or third item, that kind of area. And so Coded wins this all day on his own. But again, Ego, they just played towards the bottom lane. Blazes was able to make a response play happen, but now nobody is up here to help out. And they're able to get Pun into a situation where now all of a sudden the kill goes over to Pun, the CS is going to Pun, and that means that eventually this is going to get broken, and that means that the Crocodile's no longer going to be able to take that if they can get Pun just enough items.
So far, so good for Cerberus. And I've got an interesting stat for you, Rebel.
Sure.
So far, Cerberus have only lost games when Pun has played Renekton. And Pun's not playing Renekton, which means things are looking pretty good for Cerberus right now.
You and your stats, man. I don't know what it is about these stats that you just keep loving and bringing up.
They're good stats as well, right?
I mean, they're fun stats, that's for sure. But like,
Okay,
I mean, the reason they're winning is not because they're not playing, or not because they're not playing Renekton, right?
𝘀𝗋𝗋 would disagree, but go on.
𝘀𝗋𝗋 would absolutely agree with me. It'd be because they're playing Graves. That would be the reason.
Yes. We're still waiting to finally see a Graves outside of the jungle. Solar Flare on 2 members. The curtain call comes through. Scatter the Weak on it to Ron OP, who's burning down low. The snipe from Vet from downtown. He threads the needle.
Right, the Rip Tail.
What a snipe.
Really well played. Yeah, just poor coverage, I think, from Cerberus. Okay, I will give them the fact that this was actually a little bit risky. If somebody tanks that shot, loses half their health bar for the re-engage that maybe comes out from 𝘀𝗀𝗋, but they don't have the greatest hard engage in the world when 𝘁3 isn't able to just kind of throw his body freely and everything. But nonetheless, I mean, 1 kill in the mid lane. They're able to snag the Rift Herald, helps things out. Pun is getting response gold on the other side of the map. Again, Pun isn't the most accelerated person in the world, so this gold is going to be well placed, but it's not going to break Pun completely out of the shackles of the Crocodile quite yet. Killer Queen's actually going to go immediately for the play on top side, trying to put more gold into Blazes. They are really putting everything into the Syndra basket. This is... I'm getting close. If Blazes is able to carry this game, there's a very short list of people who I allow to play Syndra freely without me giving any criticism, and Blazes might be one of the first mid laners out of the VCS that actually gets this pass. If, again, I mean, if they're going to put a Rift Herald into him, they're going to put gold into him. If he can carry this game, he gets that pass for free.
And I think it's very important to talk about Blazes right now, because actually, no, it's more important to talk about this replay.
Yeah, so the worry here, I think, is mostly from Cerberus. I guess Artemis could have blocked it, and yeah, the angle is a little bit wonky there. The fear is, of course, like, if they do lose half the health bar on Artemis, and then you've got, like, a little bit chunked off of Ego, and your Alistar's just out of the fight, maybe they have the concern that, like, the team fight isn't going to go well. If they keep 4 full health members and a Caitlyn alive, it's kind of hard to siege underneath the mid tower, but, like, there was a potential snowball effect that got denied. Even though Ron OP went down, I mean, yes, it was 1 kill, and then it was top tower for bottom tower, which isn't all that much in favor of 𝘀𝗀𝗋. So it wasn't intentional, but I don't think it actually played too horribly into the favor of Cerberus there.
So to go back to the point I was making about Blazes, we know that Cerberus ahead. They are 2,500 gold up, but it's still important to remember how or where the gold is, because Blazes is still ahead. He's 202, he's got the Ludens completed, and he's going to be able to do work on this Syndra. We know Renekton is strong in the mid stages of the game, and, well, Artemis, he might be ahead on Caitlyn, but Caitlyn's not one of the strongest champs in the mid phase of the game.
See, normally that's the case, and I agree with you 100%. That's not something that's like a huge revelation to most players, right? But the problem is, with the amount of gold that the 𝘁𝗀𝗋 has gotten just from pure ambient tower taking, you're already on 2 items. Like, this is insane. Also, they're going to go for a dive on a coded in. Pun is actually getting ripped!
Oh, wow, it's
I was so
3
upset.
on 1. That's not fair. 𝘁𝗀𝗋's joins a little bit too late. And he's got to be careful because 𝘁𝗀𝗶𝗹𝗀 might be ready for round 2 Electric Boogaloo. But never mind, 𝘀𝗀𝗋. They are going to avenge their fallen crocodile. Solar Flare lands on to Ego. He will flash out. Oh, beautiful. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 gets his revenge on his jungle counterpart. And 𝘀𝗀𝗋 pull a kill back. But all the while, look at what Artemis is doing. He's in the mid lane, getting more and more tower gold.
See, 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is playing directly into the favor of Cerberus right now, which is horrifying to look at. Because while 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is able to make, they're kind of leaning their way into these plays, trying to make some counterplay happen, and yes, they're able to get some responses across the map every single time something like this happens. The problem is Artemis is not getting slowed down, and you talked about mid-game is already rough. We can make an argument that he's out of the mid-game when he's on the Stormrazor, but it looks like they're not even going to get a chance to touch him until he's on 3 items, 4 items, and at that point, I mean, you start talking about who has damage and who's going to be able to access it. And that 𝘁𝗀𝗋 is definitely going to be one of those members. I was so excited because I was like, Pun is going to be able to trade. Maybe he's going to be able to get, or my apologies, it was Coded. I thought Coded was going to be able to get Pun right there, but Ego just executes him with that ultimate to come through. But again, the fear here is like you're not getting enough if you're on the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗋. If they kill both members and they're able to get like the bottom tower and they pull Dragon in exchange for that mid tower, all of a sudden I'm a lot cooler with it. But like just the tower and just the 1 kill traded off, it's just not enough for me.
Okay, 𝘁𝗀𝗋 tanks the ace in the hole from Artemis. Pun on the flank. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 getting run down by Artemis at the moment. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 going in. Solar Flower to 2 members. Cleansed away by Artemis, who's down to half HP. But the Syndra is down. And that's exactly what Cerberus needed. H3 on the run. Cerberus on the offensive. A 4v4 scenario. But the Jhin is taken down. 3 kills go the way of a Cerberus. And Ego will be left to take the Drake by himself.
He's excruciatingly well played from Cerberus, and again, it's all about who has access to damage and who's able to hit the opposing backline. And look how far back Artemis can stand from the fight and not have to worry. Look how far into this team that 𝘀𝗀𝗋 has to get just to put enough threat into Artemis to make sure that he's not able to damage down everybody fast enough. And the response is, okay, if you've got Ego throwing in damage, Yato throwing in damage, Pun throwing in damage, and Artemis throwing in damage, all towards 𝘁𝗋𝗋s, he is your one main way that you can bring down Artemis in a consistent fashion during a fight. When that goes down, all of a sudden things get
Artemis has a no cleanse available. There's a Destiny that could come through, but Yato does not care. Yato knows that his Destiny will do sod all, and it's a kill going the way of 𝘁𝗀𝗋.
I cannot wait until 11:23 when these crabs are reduced in price and we just stop inting over them. Although right now H3 and 𝘁𝗀𝗋 are kind of low-key trying to go for a red invade. Thankfully they don't full commit to it, but Artemis, like, you can't make mistakes like that. That's just not acceptable.
Okay, that's all a flat. That's a Zenith Blade. Yato will go golden. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 having a think about going in. And, well, the Everfrost is used, but does naught for Yato. 2 catches for 𝘀𝗀𝗋 in quick succession. And Cerberus, I think Cerberus fans might be starting to feel a little uneasy as now the Baron Nash is started by 𝘀𝗀𝗋.
Yeah, the contention here, I think, mostly comes from Ego. It's half health. Now, if Artemis can get here and they can start to look, maybe there's actually contention. And Pun might actually want to get into the pit. Unofficial might want to get into the pit just to buy time. He's going to go over the pit.
Hex Flash in, Fit trying to stay as far away as possible. Ace in the hole will come through. The Baron is down to 900. Who got the Baron? I'm not quite sure. It was secured by the Jhin, but everyone from 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is dying. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 pulverized. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 taken down. And while 𝘀𝗀𝗋 get the Baron, everyone dies. Cerberus have 4 members still alive. They'll push in the mid lane, and 𝘀𝗀𝗋, well, they potentially had a chance to come back into the game, but it is a down and out now.
It is, Cerberus, when they're able to set up a play on their tempo, are looking incredible. The only moments of brilliance we've seen from 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is whenever they jump this tempo and they're saying, okay, we're going to force this play. You made a misstep. We're going to punish that misstep. And it was around that crab and it was around that jungle that it was Artemis and Yato going down. And they go, okay, we can look for the Baron. The timer, though, wasn't long enough for Artemis. He comes out and the contestation on this pit leads to a horrible play because they aren't ready. The tempo is there, back in the favor of Cerberus. They confirmed this Baron. They probably should have tried tried to walk out. Pun actually did an amazing job boxing them back into the pit, making sure 𝘀𝗻𝘀 was going to be able to help clean up the remainder of the fight. They didn't even need him because he and 𝘂𝑀 were just going absolutely nuts inside of the pit. But the Baron ends up accomplishing absolutely nothing. It was that's a play you have to jump, right? You have to jump ship from the Baron and immediately turn off onto the members, especially when you're outnumbered 5-3. You jump onto that Cerberus fight because you're going to win it 100% of the time. But 𝘀𝗀cie commit way too hard thinking they had more damage than they did. When you're rocking a Jhin, you cannot take the Baron that quickly.
I feel like there was a slight misplay from 𝘁3 because he goes for an engage with Zenith Blade onto, I think it was 𝘂𝑀, or it was someone he goes onto who then dashes out of the pit. All of a sudden, 𝘁3 is no longer in the pit. 𝘁3 is no longer there to peel for 𝘁 and Blazes. And I feel like if that Zenith Blade didn't come through for 𝘁3, it might have been a very different story.
And that might have been the possibility of, okay, that's our engage, that's our counter engage, we're waiting for them to jump into the pit to contest this, and that was the possibility of, okay, maybe they're looking for that. And then once that went down the drain, like you said, all of a sudden, you know, carries are starting to get pressured, Pun is in the face of multiple people, 𝘂𝑀 is in the face of the jungler. It's a lot harder to try to manage exactly what's happening. This is still a very youthful 𝘀𝗀cie team who are trying to take team fights into one of the most experienced team fighting teams we have inside of the VCS. What a kick! Couldn't quite get him.
That's a good kick, but 𝘁𝗀ie is all by themselves. 𝘀𝗀cie are slowly joining. Scatter the weak onto Pun. Pun gets taken down. And again, 𝘀𝗀ie are showing when it comes to finding picks, they're doing an exceptional job at doing so. But all the while, Cerberus are still getting stuff done in other sides of the map. This time, it's 𝘁𝗻𝑀 and 𝘂𝑀 now taking the top lane in a tower.
This is the problem. They're throwing their weight around like they have so much weight and there's so much stuff they're putting it into, right? If you're this like huge 250-pound muscular person and you're trying to lift like one of the little kettlebell weights that they sell at the grocery store, it's gonna look great, right? But the problem is there's so much weight elsewhere. There's shelves that have been tipped over elsewhere in the store that are causing massive issues, and that is 𝘀𝗻𝑀, that is Pun in the majority of cases. If he's not the one being aggressive against you, you got 𝘂𝑀, you got 𝘂𝑀, and that's all that Cerberus has had to do. They're playing this game so much smarter than 𝘀𝗀cie are. Even though 𝘀𝗀cie are grasping at straws, trying to keep the gold relevant, they aren't down absurd amounts. 4,500 isn't that crazy of a number. Not being down 3 full dragons yet, but having the soul point threatened means they're not completely out of it. But it is such a hard thing for them to try to be able to match this play from Cerberus when they're playing in 3 lanes all at once, and they're just not getting that much.
I absolutely love that metaphor, Rebel. A similar metaphor that I could think of was, you know, if you've got like this little flower that's on fire and there's this fireman with a full fire hose putting it out, like, guys, it's all okay. Meanwhile, there's this huge house that's just burning ablaze and no one is doing anything about it. A Cloud Drake has been secured for the side of 𝘀𝗀cie, and they're doing a good job to keep the objectives balanced. It's a 5k goal lead. As I hear an oh god, and I'm not sure what that's in reference to.
I was really worried that 5 members from Cerberus were just going to say, okay, nuts to the dragon, we're going to walk up mid, take your inhibitor, and walk out, and what are you going to do, fight us? Like, it's not going to happen. I was really worried, but unfortunately, it looked like Cerberus they were half contemplating a contest, they were half contemplating a play, they didn't really commit to anything. That was, I think, just a misjudgment of call. As the one thing that 𝘀𝗀cie does have going for them is they are making very cohesive calls. They're using all 5 members in a very distinct way. I'm not saying it's the right way, I'm just saying that they are using them properly in that regard. Their communication, their decision-making is one unit, which is something you can't always say for very young teams, can't always say for very rookie teams, which is good from the side of 𝘁𝗀𝑥. Again, they're playing one of the best. They're one of the veteran competitive teams here inside. This is not the team to be testing your mettle against.
Okay, 𝘂𝑀, scatter the weak, Zenith Blade comes through, 𝘂𝑀 goes golden, so does Blazes. Blazes might be getting caught out, and Blazes will get popped by 𝘁𝗻𝑀, and the engage, the pick goes wrong for 𝘀𝗀cie. 𝘁3 on the run, 𝘁𝗀 going to be able to kick 𝘂𝑀 out and run for safety. Meanwhile, Pun just picking up a solo kill onto 𝘁𝗀. 𝘁3 is getting run down. The auto attack speed from 𝘁𝗻𝑀 is ridiculous. 𝘁 will tank the ace in the hole for 𝘁3. Actually, no, did he tank it? There was a locket that did get used from 𝘁3, not sure. 𝘁𝗀 will come out of status. 𝘂𝑀 picks up the kill, and I have a feeling, Rebel, that might be game.
Yeah, I have a feeling that that is absolutely the case here. And that's 𝘀𝗀𝗀 trying to find a pick-off. I can hear him cursing 𝘀𝗀𝗺, like, under his breath, even though he is Vietnamese and in a completely different country right now. I can still hear it, because that completely stalled the play, unfortunately burnt everything, and this is the last-ditch effort. Even if you get members back up for the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗋, it feels like all you're doing is buying slightly more time in what is a losing game from this team. Yeah, 𝘀𝗀𝗀 has made his way back out. Best case scenario, they're getting both Nexus towers as everybody starts to respawn. It looks like that might actually end up being what happens unless they really full force into 𝘀𝗀𝗀s here.
Well, that's the final Nexus tower down, and there's nothing to defend the Nexus anymore. Unleash power, Pun survives, and 𝘀𝗏𝗏 will hand 𝘀𝗀𝗋 their first game defeat of Winter Split.
Unsurprisingly, yeah, 𝘀𝗏𝗏 actually had they had a really good team composition. They understood how to manipulate it once it started to come into everything that had come about in the game. They adapted very quickly to everything that had come about. And most importantly, no one slowed down 𝘁𝗏𝗏! No one slowed down 𝘁𝗏𝗏! I don't think he interacted with a single champion. It wouldn't shock me if he had, like, very middling damage when it comes to how he interacted with the rest of the map. Because he just didn't look at anyone. No one was across from him for the majority of the game. Who was Vit on the Jhin standing there underneath of his own tower waiting as the Caitlyn was throwing down auto attacks? I mean, he probably did more damage to structures than the champions this game.
In all honesty, I wouldn't be very surprised, Rebel. Artemis, fantastic performance from him, fantastic performance from Ego and all of 𝘀𝗏𝗏. We're going to be jumping on into a short break. When we return, we'll be getting Carrick's thoughts on the game and jumping into Game 2 of the series. Stay tuned to VCS English.
Chicken Run's important.
I love Chicken Run.
Are you two done?
You're the one who started this conversation.
I didn't start it. Anyway, welcome back, guys. This is the VCS English. We aren't talking about chickens, but we are talking about 𝘀𝗀𝗋 taking on 𝘀𝗏𝗏. Now, I remember before game one, one of you two posed the question of how do 𝘀𝗀𝗋 bounce back after they've taken a loss? Because they have now taken their first game loss of the split so far. They've had 3 clean 2-0s. They've now been handed a loss by 𝘀𝗏𝗏. Carrick, I'll throw to you first. Do you think 𝘀𝗀𝗋 can bounce back, or do you think this is kind of mental boom?
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's mental boom. I wouldn't call that before I'd seen it. However, if I'm a 𝘀𝗀𝗋 coach, I have to echo the words of the Honourable Rebel Fox. Hey, Artemis is their star player. Don't ignore him. He got 9 plates! You can't have that!
Thank you. Your molding is right there. That's what we're waiting for, is a molding stream for us here at the VCS. It's a problem of 𝘀𝗀𝗋 came out with a rough game plan, and they didn't make things easier on themselves when they played that game. The response, the bounce back, is going to be interesting because it's a matter of, okay, do they go back to comfort or do they try the strategy a second time? Whereas 𝘀𝗏𝗏 is like, that was a Caitlyn comp. Like, Caitlyn comps don't usually work. Like, they threw something at the wall and it stuck because Artemis is a god. So, like, they do anything they want. The ball is completely in 𝘀𝗀𝗋's court to try to slam dunk and do something.
I mean, honestly, this is somewhat what we expected out of this matchup. I mean, 𝘀𝗏𝗏, I don't think they had the better draft. I think they had parts of it that worked, but they just played better in the end, and it is going to be important to see how 𝘀𝗀𝗋 bounce back.
And Carrick, do you think 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is the key for the 𝘀𝗀𝗋 comp? Because we saw what they were able to do on the Syndra. We saw 𝘁𝗀𝗰 being able to facilitate that somewhat. Do 𝘀𝗀𝗋 play around mid lane again, or do they look back towards playing around Coded in the top lane?
I think you go back towards playing around Coded. Obviously, you have to play around mid lane to an extent. That's just how League works. You can't ignore your mid lane, nor would I advocate for that. But 𝘀𝗏𝗏s was beating Yado 1v1. We saw in those early trades, the Twisted Fate just didn't exist. He was like 30 CS down. And yeah, the jungle attention went there, which made sense. But as a game plan, I want to see them playing around top lane. 𝘀𝗏𝗏s will win that matchup naturally, and then you need to get Coded really far ahead so he can actually be that front line for your team and get onto those dives.
I want to throw to Rebel with something, because I think that's a strong statement from yourself, Carrick, saying that 𝘀𝗏𝗏s will beat Yado naturally. Because I mean,
based on game one. Based on game one.
Okay. Fair enough. But based on game 1, he had jungle attention from 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀. So
he did an early. He chunked him down to like 100 health just because he was playing Syndra into TF. If you can get a matchup like that again.
Okay, I take it back. Rebel, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the mid lane matchup as well.
Yeah. First off, Zoe. If you think you've seen a cool Zoe, Blaze's Zoe is disgusting. Yeah, I think he's like 13-3 on it all time. He's got like an 8 KDA or something. Like, he is an insane Zoe player. Put him on something like that, and like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, 𝘀𝗀's also an incredible Zoe player, but like, whoever gets the Zoe is going to pop off in this game. And for some reason, they always bring it out at very specific times, go crazy on it, then never play it again until the next time that they need it in a pinch hitting situation. I don't know what it is about this champion that people don't like to play every single game, but it is a disgusting champion. Play the damn champion. Play Zoe. If you do that, I think that is the best way to attack 𝘀𝗀, especially if he goes to something like Twisted Fate or more calm, the way that he has in a number of situations, or plays for the team fight, and then you open up playing for top side. The alternative to that is like you could play to bot side. Vit and H3 looked lost in that game. This was the first game that they got bullied. Not just beaten, bullied. That was terrifying to watch. Maybe helping them out could be helpful, but I agree. I think Coded is a better option.
Cerberus have been looking very good this series so far, 𝘀𝗀, and coming into it, I was on the 𝘀𝗀 hype train. I still am on the 𝘀𝗀 hype train. But as Rebel said, Cerberus looked very, very good. 𝘀𝗀 had a couple of windows where they were able to catch up members like 𝘁𝗀 and ego, but there wasn't anything more than that. It never looked like they were really in a position where they could win that game.
No, I really don't. I think maybe in the first 5 minutes, there was glimpses of hope. And I know that sounds very dismissive, but I do genuinely think, that early mid lane pressure could have snowballed into something. 𝘀𝗀 is an aggressive team. If maybe they had been able to really break Cerberus's necks there, they could have done something. But unfortunately, they just couldn't get that rolling. And it is a token of Cerberus's resilience. And this is where we're talking about, should they play around Coded? And from 𝘀𝗀's perspective, yeah, they should, but you can't ignore 𝘁𝗀. You can't let this man get off to the kind of aggressive start he was doing in game 1. If he's on something like a Caitlyn, you have to go and give him attention.
And Rebel, as we jump on into picks and bans momentarily, the fun thing about 𝘁𝗀 is you can't ban him out, because he'll play whatever he wants to play.
Evidently, that's the case. If he's willing to go to Caitlyn, I'm sure he's got a million champions in his back pocket to be able to go to. Because, like, you can't leave a 𝘁𝗎𝗎 up by any standard whatsoever. And then other ADCs, like, you don't want him to have for the most part. Honestly, there's just nothing really outside of a 𝘁𝗎𝗎 I feel like is worth banning, just because he's going to be good on all of it. At least that's the second phase when that comes through. Yeah, 𝘀𝗀 is also up on that list as well.
My analyst disrespecting the Lucian pick, and, well, we'll see whether the Lucian or the 𝘀𝗀 potentially gets banned. What did you say?
Lucian's very, very strong, but it's not strong in the way that 𝘁𝗀 is. Okay. I actually think if you put 𝘁𝗀 on Lucian as 𝘀𝗀, it's going to be a really rough laning phase, but he is then playing a short-range AD carry, which is not where 𝘁𝗀 excels. So it's not as bad.
You also have the problem, if you don't take Lucian, then you give Lucian Nami, which is not good. Yeah. So I agree with this thing. If they have to take Lucian, I agree with you also on your point that 𝘁𝗀 should not be playing it, right? Like 𝘁𝗀, this isn't an 𝘁𝗀 champion. I'd almost rather see this go to 𝘀𝗀, but of course, LeBlanc's going to get locked, and they're not going to worry about it whatsoever. So now it's up to the side of 𝘀𝗀 to figure out what are they going to do with this Nami pick, who are they going to be able to pair with on the bottom lane that's going to be able to attack 𝘁𝗀, or at least prevent 𝘁𝗀 from going crazy on the bottom lane, and that snowball from coming through with this mid-game is just an absolute travesty.
To throw right back to you, Rebel, who do you want to see paired with that Nami?
I like mages. I think mages are good with Nami, but nobody plays mages on the bottom side of the map. My favorite pick was the 𝘁𝗀, legitimately. I think 𝘁𝗀 makes a ton of sense into this pick. I think wave control is always valuable to have when you're up against Pun.
I want to cut you off there because we might finally not be getting a Graves jungle game. And that is really, really cool. Because so far, Graves has always gone to the jungle, but now we might be seeing either H3 or Blaze on the Graves 𝘀𝗀. Is that exciting?
Say H3?
Sorry, it's because it's the wrong way round. I looked over to the left. I saw a
draft. Yeah. I mean, it's not exciting. I'm glad that VCS teams have realized that while Graves is a very strong pick at the moment, he's not strong in the jungle. But I'm not excited to see 𝘀𝗀𝗀 on it. I want 𝘀𝗀𝗀 on much more explosive playmaking top laners. He will go on the Graves. It is a strong pick, but it's not what I think 𝘀𝗀𝗀 should be playing in this comp. Rather on this team.
I'm just going to correct what I said, because I said it's the first time that Graves isn't in the jungle. 𝘀𝗀𝗀 has already played Graves twice in the top lane, and probably other people have as well.
He's good on
Rebel probably. Okay, Rebel. Carrick's was saying how he wanted to see 𝘀WWE playing more around the top side. Now we've got the Graves in the top side. This is a champion that can snowball in the top lane, or do you agree with Carrick's in thinking that the Graves should not have gone into 𝘀𝗀𝗀's hands?
I agree. The most valuable part about having a Graves top lane is that it is really hard to aggress against. I've seen in really bad mismatch of skill people be able to take advantage of the Graves. When you're talking about professional top laner versus professional top laner, disregarding a ton of jungle pressure coming into the lane, Graves is going to step out perfectly fine as a marksman, essentially. That's going to be stepping into a very powerful role for your team. And I'm not looking forward to that for 𝘀𝗀𝗀 being so slow as he is in terms of his scaling into the game. And while yes, in the later game team fights, if they decide to go for that kind of thing yet again into the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗀, I'm like, all right, that's fine, but you're not playing into a strength that you've got. Really, all you're doing is giving 𝘀𝗀𝗀 a champion that he's not going to die on.
Okay.
He's up against Tahm Kench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old TK. We've got some Ryzen as well, which I quite like, because 𝘀WWE really needed some AP. It's one of Blaze. Oh! Rebel.
Yeah. I know.
𝘀𝗀𝗀?
Is it?
It's a Zoe. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is good.
He plays it. He's very good at it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This isn't an abnormal pick for him. I was hoping a lot more for the 𝘀𝗀𝗀 to go mid lane, to be quite honest, after they saw the LeBlanc. So I'm like, okay, you can assassinate a LeBlanc in the early game. You get better wave clasher if you're on a 𝘀𝗀𝗀. But they disappoint me. Instead, they go for the Zoe, who's got good enough wave clear, got really good roaming to match the LeBlanc. And earlier in the game, you don't need to put a ridiculous amount of lane pressure for it to just ambiently win. I think this is a matchup that Blazes is perfectly fine taking and kind of beating Yado down with. And now you've got Jhin Nami's not my favorite. Neither is the Graves top lane. I'm not in love with either of the side lanes, but I do like Killer Queen on the 𝘀𝗀𝗀 a lot more than what we saw in the previous game.
I think they are picking a very risky composition here for 𝘀𝗀𝗀, because they have one move. They go in, they throw all of the damage at you, the supreme display of talent, the Zoe poke, all of that, and if you're not dead, or rather if 𝘀𝗀𝗀 is not dead, you're in real trouble, because the turnaround from the Viego, the Tahm Kench, the Lucian is terrifying. So not a bad composition by any means by 𝘀𝗀𝗀, but a risky one.
So just to clarify, you think 𝘀𝗀𝗀 have the better draft than Carrick's, and you think they're going to take the 2-0?
I hate Tahm Kench top. I think it's overrated. But I do think 𝘀𝗀𝗀 has the better draft.
Rebel?
I'm going to concur with that point. I like Tahm Kench a lot more than Carrick's does, but I will concur that 𝘀𝗀𝗀 probably takes this game.
I agree with you, Rebel, on the point that I think Tahm Kench is good. I mean, TK, totally cool, right?
No.
That's definitely how you spell. But thank you, Carrick's, very much for the analysis. We'll be hearing more from Carrick's after this game. Not for the last time, because, of course, 𝘀𝗀𝗀 will be winning this game and taking us to a game 3.
I'd like to hold on a second. Just 1 minute.
Okay.
Tahm Kench is not a cool champion. That champion is boring beyond belief, and a horrid example of how a champion should be designed in this game, because it's the ability to build absolutely no damage and to walk someone down.
It's based after a Pokemon. How is it not cool?
You're based after a Pokemon.
Thank you.
What do you mean it's based after a Pokemon? It's a champion from League of Legends.
Yeah, but it's 𝘀𝗀𝗀, isn't it?
𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀?
Yeah. Is it 𝘀𝗀𝗀? I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. Everyone disregard
Rebel's
𝘀𝗀𝗀's
confused.
existence. Everyone
okay.
disregard 𝘀𝗀𝗀's existence forever, because he is capping beyond belief right now. This champion's not cool. It's just good. Why? No one can kill it. Who is going to kill Tahm Kench on this composition? Is Graves going to kill Tahm Kench on this composition? No. Is 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 on the 𝘁𝗏 going to kill him in this composition? No. Do you want me to keep going? I'll keep going. 𝘀𝗎𝗍 on the Zoe. Is 𝘀𝗎𝗍 going to kill 𝘁𝗀? No one's got the damage to kill this champion if it gets off to an early lead. And so, while they've got the Graves...
If it gets to an early lead.
If it gets to an early... Well, I mean, even if it doesn't, even if it just sits there and farms across from the Graves as Graves normally does, things are going to go fine. Like,
okay,
this is going to be hard to deal with.
I'm going to explain something about League of Legends to you, right?
I'm going to assume what you're about to say is also cap, so everyone disregard this as well.
So here's the thing about how tanks work, right?
This is definitely cap, yeah.
Or how bruisers work. You don't kill them. What you do is you kill all of their little friends on the rift, and then you look at the tank. In this case, the 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀, and then you say,
what do you do?
What are you going to do? You kill him.
Oh, so you do kill him.
Do. Yes,
so you kill him.
But after you kill all of his friends.
See, the problem with this is implying that there is a way to get past 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀 and the rest of the team and kill everybody without 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀 just being an absolute menace.
You've got a 𝘁𝗏 with access. You've got 𝘀𝗀𝗍. You've got 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀. I think all three of them can do stuff. And can make things happen, but we got invade! 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 and 𝘁𝗀. 𝘁𝗀 comes out on top of 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀. 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 wanted his revenge. He's on the run, he's flashing, and he will die. 𝘁𝗏𝗏 picks up first blood, and this is not how 𝘀𝑎𝑙 wanted their game to start. 𝘁𝗀 on the chase, 𝘁3 will fall. 𝘁𝗏 is next on the menu, being slowed. Can 𝘁𝗏𝗏 get close enough? 𝘁𝗏 locked down under his own tower, and it is 3 kills for Cerberus.
Bad. Very bad.
Yes, very bad.
This is very bad. Not just because 𝘁𝗏𝗏 got those kills, which is on the early game Lucian, but the fact that they are shutting out 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, who was one of the only ways that they had ability to pressure. I don't know what in the world that was by 𝘁𝗏𝗏. If I have to assume... Actually,
he wanted the ward.
I know exactly what he was doing. What he was doing was pulling back his own wave so that the rest of his, or the opposing wave, so that his wave would crash, is what he was trying to do right there, so that it would bounce back. Unfortunately, he didn't get the casters quite close enough, and there was still a melee minion left, and so that's going to be able to be frozen by 𝘁 if he really chooses to. Although 𝘁, for some reason, popped his Q. Why are you popping your Q? 𝘁! That could have been frozen! Why? I don't understand. Especially after 2 kills on 𝘁𝗏𝗏. Oh, I can get my voice very high.
Well, I'd want to compete with you on that, but I don't think our wonderful viewers here at VCS English would like to see a competition between myself and Rebel. Here is a replay, and this is what our viewers would like to see.
And funny enough, this isn't 𝘁𝗀 fighting 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. This is 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 fighting 𝘁𝗀 for his own red buff, which is insane that he's invading. Like, the idea that you're able to do this as the 𝘁𝗏 at level 2 or 3 is just like... It's already a little absurd, and then given the fact that like the lane support wasn't quite there, even at best case scenario, they were even lane support, is just never gonna work. It's just not gonna happen. So like, I don't know what 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀's plan was there, but you just threw a monumental lead in the early game for that.
I guess you could say 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀's ego got the better of him. You like that?
All right, I'll give you that.
Everyone liked that.
That was an okay meme. That was a solid meme. All right, I'll give you that one.
Okay. Back into gameplay. 5 minutes in, it's a 1.5k lead for Cerberus. But what everyone wants to know is what is 𝘁𝗏𝗏 doing? And 𝘁𝗏𝗏 has, well, he's fairly far ahead of it right now, isn't he?
He's pretty far ahead. And if you look across the remainder of the map, you've actually got interesting from 𝘁𝗀. He's going for not 𝘁𝗏𝗏, and instead actually going for what I have to assume is going to be shield bow, which is an absurdly strong on 2 item, like just massive spike for the likes of the 𝘁𝗀𝗀 as opposed to the 𝘁𝗏𝗏, which usually gives you a bit of better spike at the beginning, but then kind of levels out a little bit. But also 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, noticeably, Pun on his first armor item is going to be able to walk it coated relatively freely most of the time. Also has the Bramble Vest to deny some healing. So top lane is effectively a wash without a bunch of jungle support, without somebody just like inting into the wave, whatever that might be. You combine that with like 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 has an advantage, but not a huge one out of the mid lane, and bottom lane has already gone disastrously for the side of 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. What in the world?
𝘁3 is dying. That's what happens when you burn fish. They die. And it's a kill going... Who did that go to? 𝘁𝗏𝗀, of course.
It went to 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀. I want to give props also to 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀. We only get 3 votes to choose our MVP for games, and he deserved a good one. And he actually got it from VETV. They gave him the MVP for the last one, although 𝘁𝗀 might have found himself in a pretty rough situation.
Okay, 𝘁, now going on to 𝘁𝗀, who is, as you mentioned, in a rough situation. 𝘁 picks up a kill, and it is a 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀's first kill of the game.
I guess you could say he let his ego get the best of him.
Don't just steal my jokes, all right? But yes,
I'm
that's
firing
exactly what
both of you.
A very different joke. It was good while it lasted, 𝘀cie. We tried.
Yeah, it was good.
All right. I
Right,
gotta see
okay,
what
so
happened.
clear-
Oh, he cleared a ward. That's what you get for clearing wards, H3. You get to clear wards in 𝘀𝗀𝗶's jungle? None of that. And then 𝘂cio decides to jump into the opposing jungle because he's like, I have jungle support. I'm fine.
Oh no.
He just got away
There's
with
no
murder.
one else even here. It's just 𝘀𝗀𝗶. He's just
He
a
just-
cow just farming in. He's just like grazing in the brush, just like enjoying the scenery. Looking, oh, this is a Jhin. This is a Nami.
The
I'm gonna
amount
do
of
nothing.
the amount of pure threat that he was under
Oh,
right there without having an
okay.
interaction is nothing. 𝘁𝗁𝗁
This
is
is
under
like
some
round
very bad
25 between 𝘁𝗁𝗁 and 𝘂cio right now, and 𝘁𝗁𝗁 is trying to sit in his invisibility. No, he is. He's got coated as well coming in. 𝘂cio biting off a bit more than he can chew. He gets put to sleep. 𝘁𝗁𝗁 flashes over the wall. 𝘂cio follows. 𝘁𝗁𝗁 taken down. 𝘂cio will be able to heal up, stealing the soul. And how did 𝘂cio not die in a 1v3? My God, that was well played from 𝘂cio.
I'm really excited to see the replay. I don't know what happened after the bubble had gone through, really, because I was trying to pay attention to both sides, because Blazes
Don't
got brought
burst
down
the
on the
bubble
other
too
side of the
early.
fight. I don't know exactly what had happened.
Oh,
Also, bottom
Artemis-
side? Okay. We're just missing all the plays, aren't we? Oh, this is what
There's
happened
so much
earlier with the
happening.
3-man play. Yeah, this is what happened when
Ah,
𝘀𝗀𝗶
okay.
was sitting in the brush. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Thank
There's
you,
more
V,
plays
TV.
happening as well, Rebel.
Yep.
We just can't get enough of this. Pun down to
Okay.
half HP. Rift Herald down to 1.5 thousand. 𝘁𝗁𝗁 on the way. This is a 4v4. It's secured by the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗁. A 2k
Something.
goal lead for Cerberus, but that will be dropping once 𝘀𝗀𝗁 use their Rift Herald. And once they kill 𝘁𝗁𝗁, you asked Rebel, how do you kill a 𝘁𝗁𝗁? Exhibit A.
Yeah, it only took 3 members and an ultimate from 𝘁𝗀𝗁 at level 6. Yeah, that's going to track for the remainder of the game. I'm sure that's going to actually work out in their favor. This is an interesting little trade back, only because all of a sudden 𝘀𝗀𝗁 have gone from what was almost a 3,000 gold deficit to being down only 1,500 gold without the Rift Herald popping. They're going to be able to get 2 more plates, so this gold lead has just been cracked.
Oh no!
That's it.
𝘁𝗁𝗁
Wow.
just did an 𝘂𝗀 Rift Herald.
Unbelievable that they let that happen. They were in the face of 𝘂𝗀, and yes, 𝘀𝗀𝗶 was trying to sneak around him as best as possible, but you have to make sure that Rift Herald actually gets the plates, because again, they closed the gap so heavily. They were able to win a fight on the bottom side, they were able to get plays in a couple of places. They were finally looking like they were shaping up to some kind of resistance in this early game against the side of Cerberus, only to fall completely flat. That Rift Herald not getting them anything. Yes, it's only almost 2,000 gold in terms of advantage for Cerberus. That could have been lowered to just barely over 1,000 gold, and this would have been such a closer early game.
And we knew that 𝘂𝗀 Rift Heralds could potentially swing a game. We didn't think it'd be coming from the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗁 and 𝘁𝗁𝗁, but that's exactly what has happened. And now, if 𝘁𝗁𝗁 wants redemption for that, he's going to have to wait another 5-6 minutes to be able to do that, or win this game and then potentially get a Rift Herald in game 2. Or game 3, pardon me.
We'll see, I suppose. Blue buff onto Blazes is nice. We haven't seen too much of him interact. Oh, here it is, walking directly at him. There it is.
Yep.
Look.
Pun eats Coated, and, well, Pun is very healthy. Coated is
Just
not.
wait.
Coated is
Coated.
locked down.
Coated, kill all the minions. Kill all the other people on the map. And then 𝘁𝗁𝗁 will be on his own. We don't have to worry about it anymore. It's good. You just go kill everyone else. That's what you wanted, right,
Talking
𝘁𝗁𝗁?
about
You wanted all the
team
other people
fight.
dead? Yeah, we're talking about team fight. Okay,
fight.
so explain to me how it is that the Graves is getting run down by a 𝘁𝗁𝗁 in the middle
Because
of the laning
𝘁𝗁𝗁
phase.
is a lane bully.
Because 𝘁𝗁𝗁 is not a cool champion, 𝘀𝗁𝗁. It's not
I
okay.
think that was kind of cool if you're the 𝘁𝗁𝗁𝗁.
That
Like,
wasn't
I think Pun had a lot of fun. in
Yeah,
that
he
fight.
he hit attack, click, and then he hit his Q and his ultimate at the same time, which was kind of nasty, but that was about it. And now look at this. Pun is just burrowing down onto this tower. A 𝘁𝗁𝗁 just pulled 3 plates.
It's pretty cool. It's that headbutt pulverized missed by 𝘀𝗀𝗶. Blazes will flash out, tries to get some trade back, takes a lot of damage from the distortion of 𝘂𝗀. Meanwhile, 𝘁 and Artemis just duking it out. There's an exhaust that's been dropped down, and well, H3 is a little bit late to the fray as someone's died in the top lane. That's Pun, that's 𝘁𝗁𝗁, and there you go. See, 𝘁𝗁𝗁 can kill Pun, and in a 1v2 scenario, Rebel.
Yeah, and a 1v2 underneath their own tower, giving the kill over to the 𝘁𝗀𝗀, who's allowed to take full tower gold. That's an even trade. Once again, we're right back to it. 𝘀𝗀𝗋 has fallen apart, unfortunately, in this early game. It was a combination of over-aggression from 𝘁𝗀𝗀 to start with, proper aggression coming out from the side of Cerberus, a winning bottom side, now a winning jungle combination, and this was the play that we were talking about at least a little bit. Oh, that's kind of tragic.
That is the final tower shot. Kills Pun. I think he thought he could survive. I don't know if he had the grey health available to him.
He didn't. Nah, he had just popped it. It was more tragic because like I guess they were trying to set up the dive to come about of the tower, and so they let him pull aggro. And so he just pulled one too many tower shots right there. It was kind of a sad situation, just the math not working out right there. But it wasn't Coded killing him; it was the tower killing him. He happened to do damage, so he got credited the kill. But again, another notch in the hat of the 𝘁𝗀𝗀 as I'm starting to lean a lot more towards 𝘁𝗀𝗋 and not liking this champion in the slightest. While it is strong, I just don't like it. It's not okay. Pun, don't you do it again. Don't you go run down Coded. Oh, okay. We're good.
You know he wanted to. To be honest, the 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀 can do whatever it wants at certain points in the game. Doesn't even have that first item completed yet. And Coated does have the immortal shield bow. However, Coated definitely not immortal in the face of a 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀.
And taking stock in this game, I'm starting to run out of ideas as to how 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is actually supposed to combat anything. I guess 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀's going to try on a pun, but...
I mean, these are two AD champions into a lot of armor on a pun. He's going to go over the wall, out to safety. 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀 and Coated, they're still feeling themselves somewhat. 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀 going to tank 2 tower shots. And as you say, Rebel, you can't kill a 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀.
It needed to happen much earlier in the game. I needed to see 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀 actually put effort into making sure that 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀's laning phase was completely shut out. But at this point, the Bramble Vest is completed, the Tab Eye are completed, or I guess the plated steel caps are completed. He's got the Bomby Cinder as well in the back pocket. Like, it's too late. Like, at this point, even if you shut down the 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, he's going to be on first item fast enough. He's got enough armor to live against Coded. Coded's not doing anything in the laning phase. Yes, you get to push him out. Yes, you get some plates back. But that's traded for first tower on bottom side. Like, you're still not doing anything about Artemis. And in this game, your whole purpose of having this combination of top and jungle was to make sure that you could combat there. But as you can see, Pun is just maybe, turning it around on its head.
Yep, and there are quite a few members from Cerberus here as well. Tidal Wave will find the knock-up onto Pun. 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀 will be able to deny the knock-up using the Soul Stealer in the process of doing so. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 distortioning forward. Ethereal Chains connects onto Blazes, who will fall. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 picks up his 4th kill of the fight. 𝘁_3 and 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 on the run. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 trying to sidestep some of the edge of 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, but follow-up distortion comes through, locks down onto 𝘁_3, and that is going to be some fried Nami for Cerberus dinner. Cerberus have 12 kills to 𝘀𝗀𝗋's 4 and a whopping 6.5k gold lead.
I can only say one thing about this game, which is that I'm sorry, Spoods. I'm sorry that you listened to 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's poor judgment and decided to go for 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 inside of the series, as Cerberus has proven themselves the far dominant team. Ron OP, come on, man.
It's getting sad now for 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 fans. It's a double kill for Artemis. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 is dying in the bottom lane. He says, wait, I didn't want to lane into the top 10.
There's something just
right
like poetic. There's something so poetic about a Jhin playing the laning phase against the 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and just getting absolutely whooped, because this champion, as 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 would attest to, and as a lot of people, myself included, would attest to, it's just not that useful of a champion most of the time. And when you have something that you can't kill in front of him, like, there's literally nothing for you to do. Throwing auto attacks into that 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 does absolutely nothing but hopefully get a crit so that 𝘁𝗀t can run away a little bit faster. You saw it on display right there. The 15 kills up. Like, Cerberus has won this game, which to me, I don't think it's as much a statement about Cerberus as it is about 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. And the question mark of, like, are they really one of the best teams inside of the league? Are they really one of the teams that are going to be making a push for not just like playoffs, but even contention inside of playoffs? This is the play onto the bottom side here as 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. I look at him, just bullying the poor man. What are you gonna do, man? What are you gonna do? He tried to run through traps, but that just wasn't enough. The CC was there from Pun. He just stunned him. He didn't even have to ult, I don't think.
No.
He didn't even ult. He's used basic abilities and ran directly at 𝘁𝗀t. 𝘁𝗀t, like, the Jhin, it's just not working this series. You're getting bullied out by everybody.
I think some people would attest to Jhin just not working in general in the VCS. It's been, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Jhin misfortune meta that we've been seeing in the winter split so far, but the teams they keep on picking it. Except for Artemis, he picks whatever he wants to play, which we have already seen this series, and he makes it work as well. Blazes, well, your tower is dead, son. And meanwhile, I think 𝘁𝗀𝗰𝗀 was trying to shadow Blazes and almost died in the process. Might still die, actually. He's going to go over this wall. And he predicts it. And now 𝘁𝗀𝗰𝗀 is just going to get licked to death. That's a tidal wave coming through. But he says, you know what? If I'm going to get knocked up, I'm going to eat 𝘁𝗁𝗀 regardless. 𝘁𝗁𝗀 tries to steal the kill, but Pun says, nope, that's mine.
It's a position now that we've seen, I think, the very few number of games in which 𝘀𝗀𝗏 has had struggle. Oh, Artemis. Oh, okay, he's not going to die. Yeah. The very few number of games we've actually seen even a mild amount of struggle out of 𝘀𝗀𝗏 prior to this have been when 𝘁𝗁𝗀𝗀 hasn't really been in a commanding spot on top of the map. And this has showed us dramatically how bad this team can look when you are not commanding the map state with 𝘁𝗁𝗀𝗀𝗀, when he is not running things, the way that everything else should be going for the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗏. It seems like they are completely cut off at the knee when 𝘁𝗁𝗀𝗀𝗀 isn't able to be the dictating force across the map.
Rebel, it's okay. 𝘁𝗀𝗏 just got a tower in the top lane.
Oh man, the Graves. Oh wow, useful champion. 𝘁𝗀𝗏, please. They drafted Jhin. The only thing they could have drafted to be worse was Syndra. If they would have drafted Syndra, this composition would have been a mess from the start. I would have lost my mind if a VCS analyst had to talk about a Jhin Graves Syndra composition. But this has been 𝘀𝗀𝗏. I mean, the composition really doesn't matter. Really, I think it fundamentally comes down to 𝘁𝗁𝗀𝗀 can't command the map. They don't really have an attacking spot on the map. Nobody has been able to. Coded hasn't been as big of a force without a bunch of Predat. 𝘂TO, unfortunately, his clone absorbs an ultimate. Rip the clone from 𝘂TO, but I'm sure they just don't care.
I don't think they do, and they will punish 𝘀𝗀𝗏. And Cerberus are saying, we are the benevolent gods, and you dare distrust us, you dare try to kill us, so we'll just kill you.
And now we're in a place where Cerberus has lost games and not looked perfect. I mean, we're getting more interaction, but it's Tahm Kench. Like, it doesn't matter. If he hits somebody, they probably die because he just slows them to death. But Cerberus has now taken victories against some of the best teams in the league, and they went undefeated now against 𝘀𝗀𝗏. I think we're just, like, waiting for the last moments to come through. H3.
Is this a bait? Is this a bait? To be honest, I don't really know how this goes. I think Tahm Kench might just kill everyone. H3 tried desperately to stay alive, but Pun will fall. He'll take his second death of the game, and that is the only way you can kill the Tahm Kench, when you have 3 members at the very least. And now they could potentially look towards the ego, but 𝘀𝗀𝗏 are not going to fully commit onto that play.
They've given up the entire top side just for the one trade kill. It's not going to accomplish that much. Cerberus, this feels like a game that's going to drag on forever because there's this massive gold disparity, or my apology, dragon disparity. There aren't 3 dragons up at 19 minutes into the game, so they can't force Elder Drake really quickly. Their Baron buff isn't that ridiculously fast. It's actually, I'm going to recant that statement. It's pretty fast when you have the combination of a very fed Lucian and a very fed Viego. Like that should be more than enough to be able to bring down the Baron with a very high consistency upon it. And again, 𝘀𝗀𝗏 really have nothing to attack with. The only thing they maybe have is a combination of Graves with the likes of the Zoe. We're going to get a chance to see what this fight is like. Oh, goodness, Coded just got run down.
Yeah, Coded took so much damage, and then 𝘁𝗁𝗀𝗀 just goes for the wrong image.
Unfortunately, it's going to be the case. Ego, he's able to run down Vit, which isn't that big of a problem, I'm pretty sure. I like that we're just focusing on the Viego running down the Jhin rather than anything else, because they know here at the VCS English we don't like that champion, so watching it get punished is always fun for us.
Yeah, and when the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗏 try to fully commit onto an Alistar, even if you get the kill, you're all gonna die, and oh, dearie me, Blazes, there's not much you can do there. I feel bad for 𝘀𝗀𝗏. I feel bad for anyone who's got to walk towards this Tahm Kench, or has a Tahm Kench walking towards them. Now, Ego flanking onto Vit, not quite going to be able to land the CC with the Spectral Mort, and Cerberus just walk away and turn towards Baron.
We've landed in a position where I think Cerberus is just taking this game. They're taking #1 control of the league in their back pocket as well, which is, to speak about Cerberus, last split they got really close to it. Again, they had a few missing pieces. One of the big ones was Pun wasn't quite developed, and then also, without a jungler, Xiuhao was good, but he is not grand by any spectacular margin, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. And so Cerberus, they came out last split with high expectations, and they weren't quite able to live up as much as people might have wanted. But here, I mean, they're looking fantastic. They're smashing the other undefeated team. They've already beaten a number of teams that have been considered pretty solid, at least within the confines of everything that has come about. They beat SBTC, they beat GAM in the first week, they beat Team Secret. Really, the only victory they're still kind of thriving for right now is that win against Saigon. That would be huge for Saigon to be able to take that one. But specifically, if they run the gauntlet, this entire first half of the split has been nothing but insane for the side of Cerberus, who are looking like, again, far and away the most dominant team that we have right now, far and away the best team inside of the VCS, pretty much top to bottom.
Yeah, and for Cerberus, it's mainly been the 𝘂cie, 𝘂𝗀, 𝘁𝗔𝗏. They've been stand out. I mean, so has 𝘁𝗀 and 𝘁𝗀. And, well, 𝘁𝗏 is dead. I think that's probably the easiest way to put it. A teleport has been cancelled. They're looking to try to go onto 𝘁𝗀, who flashes out of the deadly flourish and drops down the culling, but not quite going to be able to find the final bullet to kill H3. And yeah, this game is a bit of a tilter at the moment for 𝘀𝗀, because you can't do anything. You just kind of have to accept defeat at this point, I guess.
This game is a tilter for me because of how long it's going to take for a VCS team to figure out how to close a game. Barring a massive team fight that's going to come out, like, it's going to take so long.
We're only 22 minutes in the game, Rebel.
We might have to wait for a second Baron for them to close this game, which is just a travesty, given the fact that we are only 22 minutes in and it's 12 minutes, and they just killed 𝘂𝗀. Why wouldn't you give up your life, 𝘂𝗀? Come on. Like, I don't have anywhere better to be because it's 4:30 in the morning where I'm from, but, like, I at least want to see Cerberus be able to be clean enough to end games when they're up 12,000 gold at 23 minutes. This is just a stomp that has been happening for the majority of this game, and any more time is honestly just like, they're not putting the side of 𝘀𝗀rie out of their misery, and that's really what we're waiting for. There's always the incredible hope, maybe, that we get the long con play from the side of 𝘀𝗀rie, where like they somehow were able to flip like two massive objectives and get huge shutdowns. For some reason, 𝘂𝗀 has decided to ego and go for triple like Cloak of Agility just to max the crit as fast as possible. These are mistakes that, like, if punished, will be punishing, but are really hard to punish.
Yeah, well, very hard to punish when you are 11,000 gold behind. And right now, 𝘀𝗀rie are just trying to farm up the super minions, try to get as much gold as they can, and 𝘁𝗏 might be seeing his grey screen for the 8th time this game. Oh no. Oh no, that was a Han Solo moment, but he couldn't run out at the end.
Tough situation to be in. And this is, again, this is poking so many holes in what we've seen from 𝘀𝗀rie. Not only is,
yes.
I mean, 𝘁𝗏 has played carries, but hasn't been able to do much carrying. Blazes looked good in game number 1. I'll give Blazes the props. This game hasn't looked as good, although there were moments of, again, I thought the bubble at the beginning, a couple of other plays looked okay for Blazes, but it's been really tough coming back from this big of a gold deficit. And 𝘁𝗀 has had a couple of big moments to use the ultimate, but really, that early game was pretty much all collapsed because of 𝘁𝗀. And then 𝘁 and H3 are 𝘁 and H3, which are playing exactly like we expected them to against the majority of teams at the beginning of the split. By the way, H3, you're never allowed to play Nami again. I don't care if it's Lucian Nami. You're not allowed to play that champion. There's been horrible plays on that Nami this game.
Well, 𝘀𝗀rie aren't being allowed to play the game right now. This is probably the final play of the game. 2 inhibitors are down. We asked the question, how would 𝘀𝗀rie respond if they lost the game? And the answer is not very well. It was over-aggression from 𝘁𝗀. It was punished by the side of Cerberus. And this game, too, has been such a hard stomp by Cerberus, who will take down the other undefeated team of 𝘀𝗀rie. They both came into this 3-0. But with the final 2 Nexus towers falling, Cerberus taking their time, it will be Cerberus who are undefeated and untouched at the top of the VCS 2021 Winter Split.
I guess that means that 𝘀𝗀rie could say that their ego got the better of them. Yes. My joke. Two out of 1.
You know what?
That's
I can't
what
be bothered to deal with Rebel. 𝘀𝗀s, can you mute him and can you bring back the better analyst of a character to talk about this game?
This is true.
I mean, I hope Rebel's not actually muted, but I am happy to come
I
back.
hope he is.
It was a dominating game there from Cerberus. I've been saying for the last few days that 𝘀🐶🗰 was headed very quickly towards a reality check, a wake-up call, and I think they just got ice-cold water thrown on their face.
It was very cold, I think. Rebels demonstrating actually the water that got thrown on them and can attest to how cold that water was. I mean, at the end of the day, Cerberus looked very, very good today, and I think it's just been a testament to how good so many of the members on Cerberus are and how good 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗃 is as a champion.
My brain.
I mean,
look,
I criticized the 𝘁𝗀𝗃 pick, but to be fair, the only time I've seen someone quite so voracious was the last time I saw 𝘁𝗀𝗋 spot a nest of spiders. So that 𝘁𝗀𝗃 definitely did get a lot of work done, even though I still think the champion is overrated.
Yeah, this game actually it showed quite a bit because you had your moments of like, okay, this player is doing well versus this player, which is like the greatest example of that was 𝘂𝑎𝑔𝑔 versus the side of 𝘁𝗀𝗃, where 𝘂𝑎𝑔𝑔 had the much better of that matchup. But then you look at top lane, I don't really think that 𝘁 had a bunch of moments of outplaying 𝘂𝑚𝑒𝑑 during this series. It felt much more like 𝘁 was put in a position where he didn't really have to do anything, and 𝘂𝑚𝑒𝑑 was expected to do a lot more, and 𝘂𝑚𝑒𝑑 just couldn't do as much as he needed to, which is the perfect game plan. Like, if 𝘁 is not going to be able to compete in a carry versus carry matchup, put him on 𝘁𝗀𝗃 and let him get auto-attacked by Graves 9 times and have it not matter because he can run him down. It does not matter in the grand scheme. The game planning today from Cerberus was amazing, and they were able to shut out one of the biggest win conditions. Like, it felt like they had every read correct today, which was amazing from the side of Cerberus to take the #1 spot with.
And what I want to throw to both of you with is Cerberus have now beaten the reigning champions 𝘀𝗀𝗃. They've beaten SBTC, they've beaten 𝘂𝗁𝗃, they've beaten 𝘀🐶🗰. The only other real top team that is left is 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀, and honestly, I don't see 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀 posing a challenge to this Cerberus team right now, 𝘀𝗀𝗃s.
I mean, I definitely wouldn't write them off as not posing a challenge. I would favour Cerberus in the matchup, but I would favour them to win it 2-1 rather than just, I think they'll smash them 2-0. 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀 do have very strong laners. I don't think you're going to see Coded manhandle 𝘁𝗀𝗃. I don't think you're going to see... mid lane's a bit rough. Froggy is kind of going to get a bit owned by Yado. But the bottom lane for 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀 is kind of the one lane that can really stand up to Artemis. So I think 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀 has a chance. But this is not the first time we have seen Cerberus start a split strong. Last year, they got halfway through the split without dropping a game. And they would have gone further, except they brought in their academy team.
Good times. We always love Cerberus at the beginning of the split. Later on in the week, I believe it's Saturday, we're actually going to get a chance to straight up look at that matchup, that Cerberus versus Saigon matchup that you talked about. And while I think Cerberus should be favored in the majority of situations, I know you said only moments ago, 𝘁𝗀𝗃, that you think that Saigon poses no challenge to them. You want to know who else you didn't think posed a challenge to them? 𝘀𝗀𝗃. Who did you predict today? 𝘀𝗀𝗃 versus Cerberus?
I predicted a 2-1 𝘀𝗀𝗃.
Today, 2-1 for 𝘀𝗀𝗃. That's right. You thought they were going to beat Cerberus. So why should anyone listen to you about what you think about Saigon versus Cerberus, friend?
Because my predictions are better than yours, and I beat you in week 1, and week 2 still isn't over yet, Rebel. My dear.
𝘀𝗀𝗃. 2-1.
Mom,
Anyway,
Dad,
on that
stop
note,
fighting!
On that note, we will be seeing 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀 in action. 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀 have a very tough week ahead. They've got Team Secret to take on. Okay, maybe Team Secret isn't the toughest of matchups, but then they've got 𝘀𝗀𝗃, and then they've got Cerberus. We're going to be jumping on into a break, and when we return, we'll be taking a look up at the 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗵𝗀 Team Secret matchup and jumping into Game 1 of the series.
See you then.